We've got to talk about Joe Rogan today because I showed you guys a clip yesterday of Jen Psaki and Jon Stewart. And if you remember in that video, Jen Psaki went on to talk about Joe Rogan and how he was a part of the right wing. Well, Joe Rogan, in a way, responded to these claims from the left that he's a part of this right wing conglomerate, right? Which is total BS, in my humble opinion. But I want to play the Jen Psaki clip with Jon Stewart, and then we'll get into what Joe Rogan had to say in response. With that being said, let's dive in.
And 4 hours of Joe Scarborough shouldn't be allowed in this country. and then like Rachel Maddow, like it's schizophrenic at times. Like, yeah, I do think there should be some semblance of an idea that, look, they're kicking progressive ass right now. And if progressives don't organize their media, their think tanks and all that, it's going to continue to happen. It's chaos.
Well, I will say, broadly speaking, what I'm not going to say Democrats, I'm going to say people on the left do not do that the right does very well is support within the system each other. I'm serious. Like, and what I mean by this is this, right?
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn appears on Joe Rogan's show, right? He promotes what Joe Rogan's doing, but they all promote all of the things each other are doing and what the elected officials, I guess, are doing too. And the left is a little bit more kind of discombobulated in terms of supporting the different entities on the left. There is not a left ecosystem that matches the right ecosystem.
But Ailes didn't do that either. It was the principle, the ideological principles, not the party. He and Murdoch the same way. They're promoting an ideological worldview, right? That they believe is correct. And Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan, I think, are different animals than any of this. Like, I wouldn't say I don't think they're part of any machine.
Don't you think they're but they are still in the right wing ecosystem? Wouldn't you agree?
No, I would think they're in. No, I would consider them in a more probably libertarian comedic complex, more along the lines of, and if you watch or listen to their shows, a lot of times it's just pure like goofing off.
Has nothing to do with politics, and oftentimes, but
entirely.
But they are supportive of the Trump enterprise, is what I mean. So maybe I'm loosely putting them in that category.
I think they are supportive, but not. They are not relentless in the Trump enterprise. Like, they are not Charlie Kirk. They are not Ben Shapiro. Like, they are very different animals. They are not invested in the shit that you get picked up and like go to the headlines of media. But on balance, that's not what their shows are about.
So you heard that there. And it's kind of crazy that she would say that Joe Rogan is right wing, considering the fact that this is a guy who did not want Trump on the show for a very, very long time. Some of you probably remember that. Joe Rogan is a guy who was vocal about his support of Bernie Sanders and loved Bernie Sanders for a long time, for a very long time, and has only recently criticized Bernie Sanders because now obviously everyone knows who Bernie actually really is. He's not who he says he is. But let's get into Joe Rogan's response because I think it's 1,000% on point. Check it out.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because there is that thought that, like, this is one of the things that comes up now all the time. And we talked about this on CNN. We're saying that there's a whole financed and backed right-wing ecosystem that's created these podcasts.
Where's my check?
Well, this is just stupidity. This is the problem where when you look at some conspiracies, you think, oh, well, that applies to all things.
Yeah.
That no, there's actually some things that are organic for some weird reason.
What I think we'll see, the first thing after the election is, we need a Joe Rogan on the left. We need a Joe Rogan. Well, guys, you basically had a Joe Rogan on the left, but you were so crazy that Joe started to think right.
They didn't want me. That was the thing. Like,
they didn't want you?
But that's all the PSYOP working against them. Because in the past, they could take someone like me and demonize them, and it would be effective, and they could just remove you from the airwaves,
Right.
and then remove you as a problem because you're not playing by the rules. But now people go, oh, you know what? I think he's the one who's actually telling the truth. Let's stop listening to them. And so then CNN crashes, and then faith in mainstream media crashes, and faith in podcasts rises.
I think what we'll see, though, is, and it may come from YouTube, we'll probably see them try to hype someone up to become the Joe Rogan of the left.
Oh, they're already definitely doing that. But
Who do
the
you
thing
think
is,
it is?
I don't care. Who gives a fuck? Let them try.
All right.
But the thing is, it's not going to work unless
No.
that person's authentic. Because
Without authenticity, it doesn't
if you
work.
hear a person long enough, you know what the fuck they're really saying. You know whether
That's
or not.
right. That's right.
You know, I'm wrong all the time. You might not agree with me. That's all great, but I'm not going to lie. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And this, a lot of these people are just propagandists. And they're also trying to make an argument for something without looking at the other side, which instantaneously I know now you're propagandizing. Now you're not. Now you're bullshitting me. I always try to look at the other side of
I know you do.
everything.
I know you do.
As a human, I think it's an important quality. As a person who's like broadcasting to millions of people, it's a very important quality. But it's an important quality for human beings. Like, know why you think about something.
Bingo. Bing, 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 bing. 100% spot on. You know, they always talk about, well, these right-wing guys, they're being paid and financed. Where? Where's my money? Like, can anybody tell me, please, where is my money? Because we can find the organization that was connected to Joe Biden's White House that also had some of these influencers on the left underneath that same company. That went absolutely viral. That would absolutely viral. You can look this stuff up. If we're all being paid by Trump's administration, there's going to be a paper trail. Can anybody show me any type of paper trail? Because if there is, I'm missing some checks. Somebody need to hit up Uncle Trump. Hey, hit my PayPal. Wire that money over something. I need that ASAP. Them checks didn't come through. I need them like yesterday. If I'm supposed to be getting some checks, like please send them on over, baby. Like what's the holdup? You know, so like that is absolutely ridiculous. But once again, and I've said this time and time again, Democrats accuse Republicans of doing what Democrats actually do. They're accusing Trump of paying influencers to support him because they know that's what they did. Point blank. They know that's what they did. Kamala was paying Beyonce to stand on stage. Paid Oprah Winfrey's organization, right? Paid Al Sharpton, right? Paid what's the other black guy's name? The short, oh crap, I can't think of his name on top of my head. I can see his face though. But she was paying all of these folks. Trump isn't paying any of us. Not a single dollar, not a cent. I wish he was. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd take a check. I would take a check. Like, yes, please. I've already been saying this stuff anyway, so, hey, you want to pay me now? Okay, that's cool, too. Like, I've been saying this stuff anyway before the check, so, yeah, go ahead and send me a check. Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it, right? And I've talked about this as well. They made independent media popular. They did this to themselves. They shot their own selves in the foot. They could not just tell the honest truth, because if they did, folks like myself wouldn't be as popular, right? Independent media wouldn't be as popular as what it is today. Mainstream media wouldn't be declining at the rate that it is today. Big anchors like Rachel Maddow and the Joy Reids of the world wouldn't have to be taking pay cuts. They did this to themselves. And you know, the crazy part is they're doubling down on some of this stuff. They have not stopped. They're just continuing on with it. That's the crazy part to me. Like, they haven't like changed course. But also the third thing, and I'm gonna play another clip here. I do agree that they will try, if they already aren't, they will try to make a Joe Rogan of the left, but it won't work. It won't work because there is no Joe Rogan of the right. It's just Joe Rogan. You can't artificially create that. That has to be organic. I don't care how much money you put behind it. And we've watched, and I'm not gonna put anybody on blast, but we have watched people who have been accused of being an industry plant, right? Who just had a bunch of money behind them, a bunch of backing. They had some type of organization, right, behind them, and they were funded with all of that. So they started off really, really hot, and then they fizzled out. some of you may know some of these folks, okay? Because there's more than one. It doesn't work. It does not work. It won't work. You can't make it Joe Rogan of the left because there's no Joe Rogan of the right. He's just Joe Rogan, and y'all pushed him away. Joe Rogan has always been the same guy, and he still is today.
Bernie Sanders had no problem going on Joe Rogan years ago when Joe Rogan endorsed him. I've been on Rogan's show 3 times. I've probably heard over 100 hours of it in the past decade. A decade ago, Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter who would get emotional talking about how important it is to legalize marijuana, who would get emotional talking about how important it is to get Christianity out of politics, in particular on the abortion issue, who had a host of left-wing opinions, including about healthcare, and liberals drove him away by calling him a racist, unearthing jokes he made, calling him a misogynist, really with no evidence.
When you make racist
calling him
jokes
a transphobe,
about people of color,
calling him a
people
lot of
calling you
comedians
racist is likely
make
going to
jokes
happen.
all the time. Calling him transphobic because he didn't like
He
seeing
also didn't
Fallon
love the
Fox
vaccine thing, right?
beating up.
To our point earlier.
That also used to be a left-wing opinion, to be against vaccines like 20 years ago. Again, so he actually hasn't shapeshifted very much, to your point. The Democratic Party has shapeshifted and driven him away and alienated his followers.
I think what he ended up seeing was an American political sphere that shifted, and he found ways. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He found ways to walk into where those people were. Yes, he was a proud, ultra-leftist, and then he became a proud person on the right, largely because he saw shifting towards the right, and that's where his money and his audience could come from. He shifted because more of his listeners shifted, and that's where he drove it to. That's nothing more than consumerism at work.
Which of his beliefs changed in the past 10 years? It's really hard to point out which of his beliefs.
But can I zoom out from him? Because I think there is this.
Bingo. He said it there right before, I don't even know this lady's name, the black lady there at the end that is taking the place of Abby Phillips, tried to save the other chick. Which one of his views have changed? Joe Rogan has not really changed. If you listen to some of his old podcasts, he's saying basically the same stuff that he says today. So where has he changed? He hasn't. That's the thing. It's the left that's changed. And you know what's funny? The left used to have 2 guys that were major, I won't say major influences in this past election. Yeah, major influences.
It's all coming from the left, which growing up as a person who was in the left my whole life, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same. I mean, I was on the left until like 3 years ago. I mean,
it's not the left anymore.
It's not the left anymore. Yeah. It's just like, I think we obviously want. I mean, I believe like we want freedom. Like we want to maximize personal liberty. I think we want to be kind to people. We want to have empathy, but it's very important to have personal freedom and a merit-based society. And the left wants to oppress your freedoms, especially freedom of speech, and they want to have a non-merit-based society, with race-based and sex-based preferences. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, we just want people to succeed based on their skills and their hard work.
And if they don't want people to express themselves about particular issues, then they're not doing the will of the people. And if they're trying to suppress people's ability to communicate, they're only doing that because they want to do things that people don't want them to do.
Yes.
And they want to silence opposition.
Bingo. But they had those 2 guys on their side, right? Do you think they would complain about Elon if he was in full support of Kamala Harris? No, they would. They wouldn't have a single thing to say. All this talk of rich billionaires, blah, 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 that's all BS. Because they had nothing to say about George Soros for years. George Soros is a well-known figure. Everybody knows the name. Everybody knows who he is and what he does. Everybody. Has the left said anything about him? Have they said a single word? Have they said anything? Did they say anything when he bought all of those radio stations? I believe it was like, it was some crazy number, like 50 different radio stations George Soros purchased here in America. Did they have a problem with that? No, they didn't say a thing. You know who else they had on their side?
And it was inconceivable to me that I would ever leave the Democratic Party. But I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me.
Y'all remember when that was a trending thing? I didn't leave the left left me. This was a trending image. You started off in 2008. you were close to the center, but you were center left, right? Slightly left. In 2012, you barely on the left, but you're still there. In 2021, you're completely right wing. But notice, you didn't move. You stood in the exact same spot with the exact same opinions the entire time. But now the left has gone way over here. And you were friends before in 2008, but you're enemies now. Funny how that works. Funny how that works. They literally killed their own party. And it's so funny to watch. It's so fun to watch. But yeah, man, shout out to Joe Rogan just for being real, being honest, being authentic, right? He doesn't care, right, left, up, down, blue or red, doesn't matter. Joe Rogan is just Joe Rogan, and that's the bottom line. And these Democrats, man, they they have lost the plot. They've lost the plot, and you can tell by their desperation saying crazy stuff like Joe Rogan is right wing. Absolutely ridiculous. I think this image right here perfectly sums up the way Joe Rogan is feeling. Perfectly sums it up. But hey, more people on the right, the better, I guess. Bring them on over, baby. Bring them on over. Let's keep on winning. But thanks for tuning in as always. Peace and love. I'm out.